Did you know that David was one of the most successful kings in human history? But he was also one of the most radical and undignified kings as well. Hi, my name's Andrew. This is Faith Boost. And I'm here today to boost your faith with ancient secrets that still work in the modern world. Well, I don't know if you watched the coronation of King Charles last year, when he became the king of England and the realm. When you watch those royal occasions and his mum, Queen Elizabeth, she was so dignified. She was so measured in her words. She was so calm and balanced. And that is part of being a great leader, just providing calmness and stability and a sense of peace, not a sense of chaos. And when you see all these coronations and these royal weddings and these royal funerals, and it's all very dignified, isn't it? It's all very prim and proper. And those of us in the English-speaking world, that's kind of our paradigm of what a royal family looks like. That's what a king or a queen looks like. But the Bible says that David was a king as well. He was a king of a great nation. It was what we would call today a middle power. They weren't the most dominant nation state in the world, but they were a middle power. They were dominant in their region. They were invaded several times in David's lifetime by Philistines and Syrians and different ones. And David repelled them and protected his borders really successfully. But the Bible says that there was a certain day when King David, just remember this, King David. This is not Shepherd David. This is not just random David, the youth leader in a church somewhere, or some kid at university, or, someone who works down at the local convenience store. This is King David, the head of the royal family, the head of a nation state, of a middle power, a very prominent nation. The Bible says one day, that as they brought the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem, they did it with sacrifices. They did it with sacrificing a lot. It would have cost them a lot of money, and they brought the Ark in. But the Bible says in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 14 to 15, that David danced before the Lord with all of his might. And David was wearing a linen ephod, which is just like Tarzan underwear, And David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord, were shouting, and with the sound of the trumpet. Man, this guy wasn't your normal king. He wasn't your normal royal family member. He danced with all of his might. So he wasn't sort of standing there just doing a bit of this, letting the youth leader do the movement, and he's just sort of staying cool. Man, he's dancing, he's jumping, he's twirling. The Bible says he was twirling around like this. This is the king of a nation, and he's unashamedly just dancing before the Lord. And this is a great insight into David and into his life, and that is this. The Lord was first in his life. He didn't care about his reputation. He didn't care about what people thought about him. He didn't care about, culture of the day and what was acceptable, what was unacceptable. He just wanted God with all of his heart. I want to encourage you today, go after God with all of your heart. And remember, David was an insignificant human in history. He was the 8th brother in an insignificant family. They weren't famous. They weren't rich. They were just hardworking people. And yet God chose that little boy in the sheepfold with the sheep because he had this heart after God. And his heart was so strong and so solid after God that even when he became the king, he's dancing with all of his might and he's shouting. I think King Charles needs to make some shouts. It'd be good to hear some shouts in Buckingham Palace today, some shouting and some dancing, just putting God first, bringing God's presence into the realm, bringing God's presence into the kingdom. I think the UK needs a bit of this right now. And, maybe King Charles and Prince William and Prince Harry needs to start shouting before God and dancing before God. But David unashamedly danced before the Lord. And this is a great insight into his life. And this is why the Bible says that David was a man after God's own heart. And this is why even to this day, that David is so prominent in both Old and New Testaments. That it says in the book of Acts that the tabernacle of David is being restored. Jesus allowed himself to be called the Son of David. Why does God allow David to be mentioned so much in the New Testament? Because David was a man whose heart was after God, and he would even dance before the Lord with all of his might.